Good evening. It was back to work for millions of Londoners today, but not back to normal. Staff shortages meant train cancellations and delays. Schools struggled with teachers isolating, and all secondary school children now must wear a mask. In the last hour, the Prime Minister has said there will be challenging weeks ahead. The number of cases among younger people seems to be levelling off, but among older people, it is still rising. Our political correspondent Simon Harris has the latest.
For the second year in a row, the great return to work after Christmas didn't happen. Many of London's commuter trains were almost empty. Working from home has taken its toll on passenger numbers, and those who did travel faced disruption. On the Brighton line, staff shortages meant no southern trains in and out of Victoria.
I work in an industry where we're suffering similar sort of staffing shortages, and we're having to make sort of major changes, so I kind of get it. But it feels that if the railways were working better anyway, then they could work around it much better than they are.
As more people test positive, the impact on rail services could get worse before it gets better.
Unless we see a change to the isolation rules, it's inevitable that the number of staff isolating is probably going to rise, so we could be in for a bumpy few weeks.
Figures for the most recent 24-hour period show more than 24,000 new COVID cases in London, far more than the 13,000 a year ago. But crucially, hospital admissions are much lower, 3,477 patients compared to 6,358 last January. And of those, only 232 are on a ventilator. A year ago, it was 772.
It does look as if the numbers in younger adults are levelling off or falling, although we need to be quite careful because this is before New Year effects have actually taken effect. But rates in older people look as if they are still going up.
In Ilford, students at Caterham High were relearning some familiar rules today. Masks are once again mandatory in the classroom.
Today's date is the 4th of January. Write that down in the book, please.
The sense of déjà vu isn't popular with everyone.
It makes me think of lockdown, where I could barely keep up with the work, and it's now very annoying because I constantly have to put it up.
You forget who you're talking to because you're constantly staring at the mask and you forget who it is.
OK, masks down, off we go.
Another routine also made a comeback to the school timetable. Twins Theo and Reuben did their lateral flow test under the supervision of head teacher Belinda Chappell. All 1,100 pupils were tested today. They're supposed to test at home as well.
I think it's more hit and miss at home, and that is an issue. Some students don't remember to do them. Some parents don't remember to remind their children to do them. And we have no control over whether they do those lateral flow tests at home.
In classrooms across the capital, teachers and pupils are learning to live with COVID. Simon Harris, ITV News, Ilford.
Well, businesses are not only missing the trade from commuters and workers, the lack of visiting tourists has also made a huge financial dent. City Hall estimates we've missed out on £7.4 billion during the pandemic, making it the biggest single hit to London's economy since March 2020. There was some good news earlier. From Friday, those travelling to England will no longer need to take a pre-departure test. But will that be enough to tempt tourists back in the kind of numbers this city used to enjoy? Our political correspondent Simon Harris has more.
London's tourist hotspots are feeling the cold. The millions of foreign visitors who came to see them are no longer here. Thanks to COVID, London's tourist trade has taken a devastating hit. At his souvenir shop in Bloomsbury, Shyam cuts a lonely figure among the deserted aisles.
Before the pandemic, we were having about 100 to 200 people a day coming in, whether it was locals or tourists. And at the moment, we're lucky if we see 10 people walking in a day.
January might not be peak holiday season, but even so, London's tourist sites are unusually and depressingly quiet. Last summer, City Hall launched Let's Do London, an advertising campaign aimed at British tourists. But before COVID, the capital's tourist trade relied far more on overseas visitors. Today, one of the mayor's senior aides described the loss of income from foreign visitors as the single biggest thing missing from London's economy.
We and the government recognise both the really significant part this plays in London's economy, actually more significant than in central London than office workers.
Spending in central London by overseas tourists is said to be down £7.4 billion since the start of the pandemic. Domestic tourists also stayed away, costing the capital's economy a further £3.5 billion, while working from home meant spending by commuters dropped by £1.9 billion. In the Commons, the Prime Minister lifted one hurdle to foreign travel.
I can announce that in England from 4 a.m. on Friday, we will be scrapping the pre-departure test, which discourages many from travelling for fear of being trapped overseas and incurring significant extra expense. We will also be lifting the requirement to self-isolate on arrival until receipt of a negative PCR.
But Joss Croft, whose trade association represents tourist businesses, thinks the Prime Minister's concession doesn't go far enough.
Ireland tomorrow will be announcing that if you're fully vaccinated, you can go straight to Dublin, so London will lose out to our competitors.
London's mayor wants the government to help fund a new ad campaign to promote London abroad. At stake are the billions of pounds once spent here by overseas tourists. Simon Harris, ITV News.
It opened at the end of June as a showpiece attraction to bring visitors back to the heart of London. But the mound at Marble Arch was quickly attracting attention for all the wrong reasons. According to visitors, London's newest tourist attraction wasn't exactly one of its best. And on Sunday, it closes to the public. So what happens now? And was the £6 million price tag worth it? Our political correspondent Simon Harris reports.
It lasted less than 6 months, but the Marble Arch mound quickly secured its place in history. Days after it opened, it was described as London's worst tourist attraction. Since then, 250,000 people have made their way to the top. Today, a steady trickle of visitors came to see for themselves before the mound is no more.
I love the depictions here, the pictures, nice easy explanations for everybody to view London's iconic landmarks.
Shame it's going to be flattened very soon, but yeah, very impressed with it.
I wanted to come and see what £6 million paid for, and I think it could have been better spent.
Where are you from?
From Saudi Arabia.
What do you think of it?
I think it's beautiful, really.
Building an artificial hill on a busy traffic island was always a novel idea, but this one came at a huge cost. The £2 million price tag soon became £6 million. When it opened in July, Westminster Council promised views of the West End never before seen. But visitors quickly complained they couldn't see over the trees. That's less of an issue now the leaves have fallen off. On Sunday, the mound will shut for good before being dismantled. And it appears Westminster's Tory leaders now want to gloss over the awkward teething troubles.
Ultimately, it's achieved what it set out to do, which is to bring footfall back to Oxford Street, an area that has seen footfall slump in half. And we have to remember...
Was it worth £6 million, though?
Well, we have to remember that the West End employs 1 in 8 Londoners. It is so important that we bring people back to this area.
Labour councillors wanted the mound pulled down months ago. Now they plan to make it a central feature of their campaign in May's local elections.
It's made us look stupid amongst the eyes of local people across the UK as a whole and internationally.
But it's attracted 250,000 visitors.
They were supposed to pay £6 each, but because it was such a disaster, the council had to make it free.
It will take several months to strip the mound of its greenery and take apart the scaffold skeleton holding it together. As for its legacy, the council says the plants and trees will be reused on housing estates and streets. Simon Harris, ITV News, Marble Arch.